All Music Podcast.
Before we do this, everybody could introduce themselves. Because everybody's from a different background, so everybody does something different. I don't know, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm Tim Lowe, session drummer. I've been drumming for about 20 years now. Obviously I was self-taught for a year at high school, but then really since then I've just kind of learnt drums myself, really. Obviously metal's my roots, but obviously metal is my roots, but over the years I've worked with another artist who works with Andrews called Adrian Ventura. We don't know, I've just learned to play different styles of music over the years. Obviously I like to keep an open mind to where we've known each other for quite a while. Yeah, obviously since the start.
And as you said, you've seen me from the beginning, from the bedroom.
Yeah, in Windermere, yeah.
But you two are
us two are like OGs, aren't we? Yeah, we're one of the OGs. So yeah, I've just since meeting you then, it was just kind of like just always enjoyed working with you. Obviously, you make drums sound amazing. So
cheers, man. But there's no paid advertisement.
No, there isn't. No, but obviously, I keep coming back because obviously
because you two never met, have you?
No, I don't think we have.
No, we haven't.
Yeah,
but are we not friends on Facebook?
I'm sure we are. I'm Tim.
It's funny how we're friends on Facebook. No, met before.
In a way, because I see it as.
It's like supporting fellow acts.
Yeah, but it's kind of like I see it as, even though maybe we've only met today, everyone that works with Andrews I see as like family or a friend, because obviously we're all from different.
Like you've already met.
Yeah, like obviously I've met you before, Mike, and obviously we've just done.
Next one, Seb, introduce yourself and full name and everything.
Okay, so I'm Seb Craword-James, and I'm kind of new to the music thing, really, aren't I? I've been a bit like you. I started off as a bedroom singer.
Drummer. I was going to say at the moment my drum kit's actually set up at home in my kitchen, because that's the best place.
Kitchen. I came from the bedroom.
Yeah,
and pretty much since I can remember, I've always sang. I used to sing myself to sleep when I was a kid.
Yeah.
My mum would shout, "Shut up, go to sleep."
And now you're
singing quieter under my duvet.
Because it's like a natural thing. It's something you've done from being small.
It's always something I've loved doing, and playing keyboard. I started playing keyboard one day when we were taking some rubbish to the local dump, and there was this old Bontempi organ sticking out of the rubble, and I begged and begged for my mum to let me have it. It just needed a plug, I said, and sure enough, she kind of yanked it out, and it was in good condition. She put a plug on it, and it worked away, and then that was it. I was just always sitting, playing and singing and stuff from, as I say, as far as I can remember, and then came across Harry, original Southern Edge singer and songwriter, I suppose with you really.
Yeah.
And he kind of said he didn't want to be the front man and asked if I would do it. And to be honest, I can't even remember how I met Harry.
I don't know how that happened, because it
was through Lake District Radio, that was it.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
One minute we were doing stuff, and the next minute he was having a bad time, I think, and he had to ditch out. And then he kept saying to me on messages, "Oh, Seb's going to do it. Seb's." And I was thinking, who's Seb? Who's that?
Who's this
I wouldn't know if he was met you, and then you suddenly turned up at the rehearsal.
Yeah, that was kind of how it all started, really.
So now you're in Southern Edge and you're the main singer, and now you moved to Scotland. And he still keeps travelling back to the studio.
The ironic thing is, if you remember, when you had the other studio, I literally lived in the street next to it. So I could just walk straight to the studio.
And now you're in
Scotland.
In a minute.
And now I'm in Scotland, and it takes about 2 hours.
But man, respect, because you're still here. And as I said, I'm glad, because we did this album, and I'm like, the songs are next level. They have their own taste. It's like a completely new Southern Edge. Anyway, so I'm glad you're here. So okay. And we have.
Okay, I'm Mike Turnbull. I'm kind of a local kind of guy who's a singer-songwriter. Do a lot of modern folk acoustic stuff, really.
Death metal.
I hear you're a bit of a legend, actually.
Yeah, I've heard you like the
Everyone
main
says
man
that.
around here.
Everyone says that.
Even
And
my
I-
Uncle Chris knows you
I would love
from
to
the
buy-
80s.
Yes. Well, I've been around. This is if we've got time, if we go back to similar to your story about pulling the keyboard out of the rubble, and yours about the bedroom thing.
Yeah.
I played bass in my bedroom back in Grange over Sands, of all places. I was about 15, and that was my main instrument, and I played that and I mastered it, but never really got a band to play with because you're in the middle of nowhere. So trying to get to Kendal or somewhere is really difficult, especially when you can't drive. So I didn't really do that, and so I played guitar instead and learnt songwriting. Just taught myself how to songwrite, and then over the years I played both instruments, done lots of songwriting, and then had a bit of time out because I had family and stuff, and then I kind of came back about probably 10 years ago with sort of. I liked all this modern acoustic stuff. So all kind of people from what's his name? The band's called City and Colour. Dallas Green.
Yeah, Dallas Green. His old band Alexis on Fire.
Yes,
I was a big fan of them growing up. Obviously, because they were a bit heavier.
Yeah, they were really heavy.
But he was
his voice is really sweet and pure.
Yeah.
And then he went off on his own. Yeah. Doing some really nice acoustic stuff, almost kind of folk because he's Canadian.
He's Canadian. Yeah.
I really loved it, and I thought, and that kind of, I went down that YouTube rabbit hole of kind of finding things, and somehow I found sort of English folk stuff which I wasn't really aware of. So it was like Seth Lakeman and all these people. And I thought, I want to do that.
Yeah, we like Seth Lakeman.
Brilliant. And I thought, well, that resonates with me. And you play these tenor guitars and bazookas and stuff. So I kind of did the same thing, went down that same route, thinking, I might have a go at that. And I used all my songwriting experience to sort of bring some old songs alive to start with. So one of my first ones that I did with Andres here in the studio, back in the day when
back in
Windermere,
Windermere bedroom,
was King of Dunmail Race, and King of Dunmail Race was a song I wrote years and years ago, and it wasn't going to be anything at all.
That's a really funny story, by the way, because he was just warming up. But anyway, tell the story.
And I wrote the song. And the band I was in years ago, it was probably early 90s. So we're not doing this folk stuff now. We're not singing a song about a story about a king that died at Grasmere. And so it never came to light. This was early 90s, and so when it came time to do it, I was just playing. I considered doing it for the EP, and I thought, no, I won't do it because I had it in my head that it's not very good. No one's going to like it, because it's about this king, whatever. And I was playing it. You mic'd me up, and I was playing this thing, and you stopped me, and you said, "Whoa, what's that?" I said, I'm just warming up. We won't do this one, but it's a good one to play because I'm picking and I'm strumming, I'm picking and I'm doing lots of different things. And he went, no, whatever that is, you've got to record it.
Because I was like, what the sound, because it sounded...
you said it sounded mystical and magical.
It really does.
Yeah, because it sounded like a bit dissonant.
Yeah.
And then it sounded, I was like, it's so mystical and magical. Then... back then I didn't know your style, and I realized because of the tuning you use, it sounds like 2 or 3 people playing, because you're playing a rhythm, you're playing a solo, but then you have you play with the energy and how percussive it is. So it's almost like a 4-in-1.
The tuning that I use. Somebody recently said that guitar's only got 4 strings, but how do you make it sound like it's got 12? Because it's just a style. It's just, and it's not just that. It's an illusion in a way, because an audio illusion, because you've got 4 strings, but the way it's tuned, you're playing lots of open strings a lot.
Yes.
And they're ringing out, and so it kind of creates this kind of, like I say, this kind of mystical kind of vibe. It sounds cool.
It really does, and Dunmail Race especially has always been one of my favourite fields. Yeah. Well, I actually remember when you were in Southern Edge.
Yes.
And we did practice it because it was going to be part of
Southern Edge. We thought we'd bring it in.
And I did the piano version of it with the deep string. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
and it kind of had that moody kind of mystical sound to it.
Yeah. We tried to make it slightly different, and I think it was nice. Yeah, I liked it. Yeah.
I bet you're glad you did stick with that song after.
But also now I have gone back to bass, so I do play bass in a number of bands in the area as well. So
I'm very happy about that, because man, great on bass. Like I said to him, I wish there was two of you. Like it's like he's using this fretless bass,
Yeah.
so it has this wow, this
Wow,
type of
yeah.
sound, and
Yeah.
then he's not the bassist who's just like picking 4 notes. He's got to be like moving around and putting harmonics in and everything.
Jazz hands.
Man,
Should we call it?
octopus.
Jazz hands.
40 odd years of
and
playing the damn
Actually-
thing.
one thing I wanted to say, because I just remembered that time when we were recording, that I didn't know I'm into folk until I met you. Because like when you
Who
booked
said
in
that?
and somebody was like, "Oh, what you recording?" I'm like, "Well, folk." And how do you feel about it? I'm like, "Well, that's new. We'll see." But then I realized, I'm like, "Oh wow!" Like the way you play it, you mix like so many elements into it. Like there's you call it modern folk, but there's like everything. There's disco, rock. Like there's everything in it.
Yeah.
So when I listen to it, it's not like very traditional folk.
Well, no, that's what I liked about taking Seth Lakeman as an example. He will just play. He might just play one instrument like a fiddle, but play it really kind of frenetically, very But he's got this driving beat going on at the same time. And it just you see the crowd. When you see the footage of people playing,
Reacting to it, to what he's
reacting at
doing.
festivals
Yeah.
or whatever, and they're just going bonkers. And it's just one guy with a tenor guitar or a fiddle or a bouzouki with this, And but the song is catchy and there's a story behind it, a bit like King of Dunmare Race. There's a story behind it, a legend of some sort, which kind of makes it. That's why I keep saying modern folk. Because it is, and a lot of people sort of don't like what he's doing or what he's been doing for 20 years. Because a lot of trad people out there, traditional, folk people don't kind of think, nah, that's not really folk, But it is. I mean, folk is defined as something that's got a story behind it, and it may be a true story or a legend or something like that, and you put it to music, and if it's acoustic music, then it kind of becomes folk, inverted commas.
So that's what I'm saying. Like I didn't know until the day I met you that I like folk, because like I used to think about folk differently. It's just similar to like some people say, "Oh, I hate jazz," but there are like types of jazz. There's like so many things. So
I'm that
All right.
person that hates jazz.
Just want to, if I can just add in, before I met Andres and all of you, I was in a band in Lancaster. It was called the Daniel Ray Band. Obviously, he's originally from Australia, and that's really the short story how I got into folk was, he was very into folk. Obviously, he liked Bruce Springsteen as well. He was a big fan of his. So that's kind of how I learned to adapt my drumming, because obviously being a metal drummer, I used to just always hit the drums as loud as I could or as hard as I could, but nowadays it's kind of like, and Andrews will back me up on this, like I kind of feel my way into the song. I've got a better understanding of what the song needs and doesn't need.
Playing for the song.
So I'm playing for the song instead of just trying to do fill after
I
fill.
suppose it's
Which
like
is-
the
yes.
illusion, the audio
Yeah.
illusion.
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
But I think
I'm not playing a virtuoso. Well, I don't think I am, because I'm just trying to play to the song and the feel of the lyrics and what the
I've
story is.
I've learned over the years less is more.
Yeah.
So when it is time to maybe put a fill into a song or to do something different, it has more impact than just doing it over and over.
So that's one of the tricks
Yeah.
I use in mixing, by the way. Because like when somebody was like, "Hey, we recorded this song before," and like it didn't sound as big. What happened? And I was like, volume. Like that's why I got those faders. Oh, let's shoot.
Yeah.
Because like when I bought those, I bought them because I realized I'm like, level is everything. You can just push something up a bit back, so suddenly it moves up and down.
Yeah.
And then with the mixing you can make it small or wide or something, so suddenly it's moving, and that's why I think that's what we did as well a lot. I think let's jump to today's topic, which is rehearsal. What's the purpose of the rehearsal? Different purposes of a rehearsal.
Well, we're doing rehearsal tonight straight after this.
Oh yeah, Seb's rehearsing tonight.
Multitasking.
He just popped into.
Yeah. And I suppose the purpose of it, certainly for us, is to get ourselves gig ready, because we're constantly producing or bringing in new tracks to fill out the set.
Yeah.
And so we need to get them tight and as smooth as possible, because obviously they sound really rough at first, as you'll know.
Yeah.
You know, a band getting together
There's
with somebody's idea.
There's a transition, isn't there, from learning it and just kind of going through the motions of it, and then all of a sudden switching it on to perform the song. It's a different thing from learning it. You have to get to a point where you suddenly go, right, we'll do it now. Okay, we'll count in 4, but this time it's for real. It's like, because it's, you know.
You mean at rehearsal?
Yeah, even at rehearsal, because when you play live, that's the only one time you're going to do it, because you can't rehearse before. You can't. You can't do it a few times and then go, okay, I've done it a few times now. Okay, I'm going to do it for real, because that's, you know, that's not how it works. When you play live, that's it. You know, it's one time only. It's the only chance to do it, so you have to know it. Yeah. So when you rehearse, but when you're rehearsing, you're kind of going through the motions. You're kind of going, you stop and start, and you're going. But then there's a point where you say, right, okay, let's do it let's count in 4, and we do it as we're going to do it. And I think that's what I do, you know.
Is that you like your method usually with?
Yeah.
Because you like, that's the other thing. So everybody's from a different background.
Yeah.
So like, because you have a few projects, and then if you look back in the past few years, was this always the same method you used?
Yeah. I learn it and spend that time just going through, whether it's the guitar part or the lyrics or just getting the vibe of it. And then all of a sudden, when you suddenly switch to, it's like a little switch. You go, and you play it for like you would if you know. You might have just been rehearsing.
Let's get serious.
No one's in front of you. You know, you just you know, you just kind of. But you just kind of think to yourself, right? If I was going to be, you know, on the pyramid stage of Glastonbury,
I've just play it the same way. Yeah, you'd want to play it the same way.
This is the one. This is the performance I'm going to do, and you can guarantee you might have done that song to yourself quietly on the sofa or your dining table or wherever, and then if you stand up all of a sudden and play it and sort of decide, right, I'm going to do it. You sing louder, you sing out more. You sing slightly differently, because your voice can all of a sudden do things that you wouldn't have done if you were just sat playing it, you know, with your head down, looking at your lyrics and on the dining table.
That's something I find quite difficult, actually, is that transition from being in the studio where you feel you can sing more how you want to.
Yeah.
Whereas when you've got the monitor speakers in front of you and everything's really loud, you feel you overcompensate by singing louder, and it does affect the sound of your voice.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's an interesting thing, is that because when you rehearse with monitors as well.
Yeah.
So you can,
so I have in-ear monitors for rehearsal.
Because that's where a lot of people fall down, because, and you might know this, Tim, where you might rehearse, but you might not have all the gear, so you rehearse just as you are. But you might go and play somewhere where you've got sound engineers plugging you in, you've got monitors in front of you all of a sudden, and all of a sudden it sounds very, very different
than what you used to in your
than what
home.
you used to.
It's quite disconcerting.
And that's unless you're doing big gigs all the time where you get used to all that gear, all that equipment, and the sound engineers doing everything for you, and the monitors in front of you. It's always going to be a bit of a stark thing when you do it out of the blue, when you're not used to doing it. And so I know what that's like.
Well, the first time that we did, was it the old fire station?
Oh yeah.
That sound engineer, and I don't think the monitors were quite right, so I felt like I couldn't really hear myself, and it was really unnerving.
Yeah, that's that's the other side of it. If you're not hearing them clearly. Because if you hear them clearly, you can back off from your singing.
Yeah.
You don't have to stretch your voice too much or you know, strain it too much, because you can be quite controlled with your voice, because you can hear yourself really clearly. If you've got a bad engineer not giving you much monitors to listen to, you will absolutely just shout and stretch.
Back in Hungary, I was in a band, and I'm not been in a band really since, because I felt happiness in this. Because in a band, I feel like you're tied to one genre sometimes, in a way. Although I see it differently now, because I feel like you can be in a band. Like when I met you, or like even your music, there's so many songs you have now. You know, you're sort of melting genres together, and that's like the new thing as well these days. That if you just do one thing, you might not be successful. But what I realized was that you have to divide it into different groups. So like recording is different. A rehearsal is different, and like live is different, and I feel like it's almost like an ability. Like I had people in the studio when they're like, oh, we can't play with the headphones because it's putting us off. And we sorted it, and it's a wonderful recording. But for me, I know that, oh yeah, I used to be like that, because it's an ability. Because playing with headphones is different than playing with a speaker. When you're in the studio, it's again different. But even if I record, that's why I wouldn't like to record myself, because I want somebody to focus on just the recording, because I know it's a different feel. But I know when we gigged, again, it was different, the studio was different, and then the rehearsal was different. But once you get experience with each, it's almost like an ability to like adapt to each of the situations. And live you could have like the same sound as in your home, the same sound as in the rehearsal, but suddenly you could get an amazing sound where you're like, oh wow, I can hear everything crystal clear because the engineer is so good. Or, whoops, it's too harsh, can't hear anything, like...
I'm kind of the same with you. I'm just I've been in a band. I started off that way where I was used to having like engineers doing the sound for my old band Kyra. Obviously we did tour around the UK quite a lot. We almost did get
Tell me about that, like one. So how was the rehearsal there? How did
the rehearsal? Well, this was kind of random. We used to go up to a hall up in Crook. It was just a hall in the middle of nowhere that we just hired out every week, and we'd go up there maybe once or twice a week. Obviously it was just a hall. We'd just set up, it was just drums, bass, guitar and vocals. And it was kind of like we would rehearse like the songs that we had. We just, obviously we wrote new songs as well, but it was kind of like when I first started drumming, it was kind of like we always had to practice the song perfect, or it had to be how we were going to, like you said, like playing it live.
Was this after it was recorded? Or?
Yeah, like obviously this is another thing. Like we did record some EPs. We went down to Wales. We recorded in a studio called Long Wave Studios, which is where bands like Funeral for a Friend, a lot of Welsh.
I know the studio.
Yeah, Long Wave Studios.
Messaged him a few times. Awesome guy.
Yeah, Romesh. Yeah, so I was lucky enough to go down there. We recorded a 4-track EP there. We had like his whole studio for a week. The EP, like, it was recorded really well. We got out there, it got us around the UK quite well. But then, obviously, I left the band, obviously, because I wanted to finish my degree at uni. So then, over the years, I went to UCLan Preston, where I studied music there for 2 years, and it was kind of like, it was kind of the opposite of what I did. It was, like, really experimental. Like, they wanted us to, like, create music out of, like, using objects and stuff like that. So in a way that kind of helped me to kind of like open my mind up more and to approach like drumming in a whole different way. And then the last few years it's kind of like I've been working with Adrian and Shaw. I've recorded a few EPs with him. Recently just done Harry Stevenson's latest 2 songs that he's recorded. So the way I practice is kind of opposite to how these guys do at the moment. Like if I get a song that I have to learn, I literally just, my drum kit's set up in my kitchen. Obviously I put my headphones on and I just write a drum beat that feels like right for the song. Obviously when we recorded last year, obviously there was 1 or 2 sections that we changed, which was good. Like, we kind of adapted, didn't we, at the time?
I think we completely changed it because you were I think hitting every third, and then in the original the beat was on the second and the fourth, but then Harry loved it, I loved it as well. When I was in a band, once Stop was recorded, we wanted to sound the same way live.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a press play, press stop, at the end. But I think because you do like session drumming and then you play with Adrian, it's more about connecting with artists, and I think that's when you learn about like dynamics a bit more.
It's like with like me and Adrian, like when we play a lot, like we do mostly covers whenever I play, but we do some of our songs. Sometimes we could play a song that's like, he plays it the same because obviously he's got his way, but sometimes I'll adapt. I'm kind of good at adapting to live.
And Adrian mentioned something about you. So when you guys play live, you're interacting with the crowd. So like you would play the song differently, like depending on like they're watching people and like Adrian was like, I stopped for a sec or something because like Tim was doing a drum solo, and then he just kept like doing stuff, and the people loved it.
Because I feel like at the same time you want to like keep the crowd engaged, and you want to entertain them as obviously there is moments to show off, but I've learned over the years like less is more.
Well, I know, because then
the
same thing when you guys said, but next time we played in a very fancy place, and people were posh, and so we were just like playing quietly.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's like so it's kind of like I've kind of learned over the years to adapt to where it depends where we're playing.
You have to read the audience, don't you?
There's I think whenever you're doing it, there's a lot of adaptations. So when you were practicing in the hall, it'd be very echoey.
Yeah, like you say, obviously it wasn't soundproof.
You had to sort of just play what you play.
Yeah.
And be very conscious of what you're doing and ignore that kind of sound.
Yeah.
Because when you went into the studio and it was all completely dead and perfect, you can hear everything then. Yeah. And so
it was the same live at certain venues as well. Like there was a place in Barrow that my old band used to play, Kyra. It was called the Canteen. It was like the best place to play in Barrow.
Right.
We're talking about 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. And obviously, luckily there, they had a really good sound engineer. So I knew every time we went back there, I knew the sound was going to be spot on. But then I've played other venues before where it's completely new, and then I've had to ask the engineer, or I can't, because I was more like I needed to hear the vocal really. I was because I'd follow a lot of the songs I did. Would follow the vocals,
playing for the song.
Yeah. So it's kind of like
an interesting thing on the other day, on somewhere, like you do on these feeds, and it was all the big drummers, of the day and from the past, so Stuart Copeland and people like that, and they was talking about Ringo Starr, saying that he was one of the first drummers to not have any influence, particularly from another drummer somewhere, because he was just an original drummer in an original time where there were no other drummers to aspire to. Yeah. So he learnt to play to the songs of, that were written at the time. So Lennon-McCartney songs, and he just kind of wanted to do something that fit the song because that's all he knew to do. Yeah. And so to hear you saying that you did that,
it's kind of the same really with me.
I'm talking about Harry Stevenson's song that I appeared on as well. Yeah. And I was surprised to hear your when you sent me the track. I was like, "That's live drums," in the middle.
Why did you not mention that?
I wasn't quite sure what.
Yeah, did I not mention?
No,
I think Harry might have sent me a proof or something.
Yeah. Just we never know what's going to happen.
And all of a sudden I was like, "Whoa!" Yeah. And I thought that's Tim. And and what I got from that was like, that's because Harry's songs are very, very melodic, very, very precise. He's kind of got very much a style to it. And so to get a metal drummer essentially to come in and play on something quite sensitive like that shows that you've got a really good touch and a good sound to play to that song.
Well, that's one I wanted to say to you, like, because like you just said it, like a metal drummer, but it's kind of like I kind of don't see myself as just one.
No. You can adapt.
Yeah.
But if I'm honest, the only time I can hear you're a metal drummer when you do fills. Like
when I had the double in.
Like, but that's the thing. Like Harry messaged me. He's like, "Hey, I'm around Candle. Can I pop in?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm just finishing the song." So I'm like, "Yeah, pop in, have a listen." And he's not heard your drumming mixed yet. Yeah. And when he gets to the bridge, and you got that the big toms, I was like, oh, is he gonna like it because it's quite heavy? And then he listens to it. He's like, "Those. I'm loving those." Like, he says like.
The thing is, I didn't for that recording session. I only had a single pedal. I didn't use doubles. But I think because I couldn't hit the drums.
What I mean is the way you hit it.
Yeah.
If somebody else hit the drums and played it, it wouldn't sound like you. That's Tim. Like, and then it's like it's nice and heavy. It's. But it's interesting to hear like how like your experience changed, because I feel like you went into the very mainstream, like it has to be perfect.
Yeah.
And then you sort of almost sounds like you found happiness in.
I did.
Maybe playing with Adrian a lot.
Yeah.
Has done that. With his material.
Yeah, it's kind of like with Adrian. He's really, especially live. He just says he just as long as you don't go too crazy, just do your own thing. Obviously, there is times when he lets me.
And the one thing we didn't say, you're not really rehearsing a lot with Adrian.
No.
So that's why.
To be honest,
they just turn up and play.
Yeah, I'm kind of the type of drummer, like, I wouldn't call it cheating, but I can kind of just, if Adrian starts playing something, or if I'm playing with anyone, I'll just, in my head, I can just come up with a beat that fits.
And then he's watching him.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, even when Adrian turns around, I see it, it's like, slow down. Or like, Adrian will like...
But sometimes, because I get into the moment, or I'm just...
But it's that thing of being intuitive, which is something that Ringo had from day one.
Yeah.
With not aspiring to any other drummers of the time, particularly.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of drummers that do inspire me, but obviously they're more metal drummers or heavier drummers. But over the years, because I've kind of now, I've been asked to be in bands before, but I kind of want to be a session drummer, so I want to be able to work with all kinds of different bands, or if it's just solo artists, or... And basically the main thing is just I'm a session drummer to be for hire, or if you need someone to play live, just to fill in for someone that say needs it, you know.
If we needed to.
Yeah. I'm not trying to like, you know, but you know, I'm just saying, like, say if, you know.
It depends, because some would feel frustrated about it to do that. Some would just feel, you know, comfortable being in a band.
Yeah.
So, you know, we all enjoy different things, and I think that's the beauty of music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you feel like practicing the songs is a home thing? And rehearsal is more about, so you shouldn't be practicing the song in the rehearsal, or you could.
There's a thing about that, isn't there? Where you know, before you get to rehearsal, do your homework. Don't learn the song in the rehearsal.
Well, I feel like with modern technology, you can easily do that. Probably, I don't know, 30 years ago, you couldn't have done it. Like.
No.
Well, I'm trying to figure out a way that now I've moved to Scotland, I can get a holographic projection of myself in the studio, but actually do it from home.
I'm not a big fan of like social media stuff in this meaning, because I feel like social media makes us disconnected.
Yeah.
Although it sort of connects you, but it makes you disconnected.
On a superficial level, though, nothing's quite as meaningful. I mean, the other aspect of band practice is we love the camaraderie of us all being together and the social aspect of it.
Yeah.
That's another thing I wanted to talk about, like, because I feel like there's mental health benefits of music and the rehearsal. Like, how do you feel about that? Like,
well, literally, in between Christmas and New Year, I came to do a band practice from Scotland. It was the first time I'd attempted this journey. And I'd just finished work and was driving straight from work to here, so that was a 2.5 hour journey, and I was driving along thinking, oh my god, I'm actually exhausted. How am I going to manage this journey? Am I actually going to make it? Anyway, so I got here and kind of dragged myself through the first part of the rehearsal, really worried I wasn't going to have enough energy to get back. By the time rehearsal had finished, I was absolutely buzzing, because of the energy of the music and the socialising.
Just seeing
it can lift you up, can't it? It can kind of like lift your mood up.
And honestly, I got back home in what felt like half an hour.
Yeah. I do that with my Ricochet band. I play bass with Ricochet, and there's times when I'm thinking, do you know what, I really can't be arsed to go and rehearse. I'm really tired, and yet once you get there and you get through, like say, a couple of songs, it's just you're bouncing a bit, because it's like, oh, it's great to see Dave on the drums, it's great to see, you know, the two brothers that you know, the John and Rich, doing their bits, and you just go away with tons of energy.
I feel like, you know, socializing, recharging, and in a way, for me, it's like similar to a gym. You're getting rid of the negative energy, and then, you know, although you're tired, it's like a very happy tiredness. You go home,
it's positive kind of vibes or positive energy.
Another thing I love about rehearsals is the happy mistakes, because that's how good songs
evolve as well.
Yeah.
Have you not found as well with rehearsals, you can sometimes have a period where you've not rehearsed for quite a while for various reasons, somebody's not been well, or it's been Christmas and New Year, and you come back anticipating it's going to be rough because you've not been together for a while, but actually it tends to be better.
It's more,
I don't know what it is
it's
about
kind of, I think because it's more, because if say you've had time off, in a way everyone's probably more excited to get back together and start working on the songs again, so maybe people come with more energy.
And
And
you've had a chance to absorb it
Yeah.
and
And that
embed
happens
it
with
within you.
individual songs as well.
Yeah, it
The
does.
songs that we've sometimes dropped,
Yeah.
the various things that I do, because it's just, it gets to a point where you've just done it that much, it's a bit tired, and you leave it for a while and you say, oh, let's have a go. It might be
Come back to it,
You
and
come
then-
back to it.
and then
And
you're like,
everyone
"Oh."
does it with gusto,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
absolute, energy, and it's like, whoa, why did we drop that out of
Yeah.
the set? Because we need to bring that back in.
Yeah.
And yet, a couple of months ago, it was like, oh, drop that one, it's rubbish.
I think that's
So that help. The
yeah.
energy happens with the
sometimes
song as well.
with beauty of
Yeah.
some songs that you kind of leave for a while and you come back to it, you kind of like brings back like, oh well, why did we drop it?
Why did
It's
we
like,
drop that? That's,
yeah,
that
but
sounds great,
but that's
yeah.
just music, and
Yeah,
that's just how
But I
music
think
is.
it's the
sometimes.
approach, isn't it? It's like that sort of vibe energy that's
Yeah.
between you. And so let's have a go at that again.
Yeah.
And you just do it in a different mindset all of a sudden,
Yeah.
just for that night. And you just, like I say, just think, oh,
It
bring that
rekindles
back in the set.
Yeah, yeah.
Why
Yeah,
did we
yeah.
drop it?
When I was in a band, I remember like Happy Mistakes. I liked them for two reasons. One was because it sometimes changed the song, and it could be somebody hitting another note or like just doing something, and you're like, "Hey, I like that," and hey, well, what if you do that? And then maybe you recorded the song, maybe you have not, but it's interesting how the dynamics and energy could change again.
Yeah.
But the second reason I loved, there's a bassist back in Hungary, and we wrote tons of songs together. I loved working with the guy. And sometimes he was just jamming. I'm like, oh, what's that? Just one there, didn't say his thing. I'm like, well, that's cool. So I started playing with that. And next moment we went home. I woke up in the morning. I'm like, oh, I've got this melody in my head, and then whoops, a new song. So that's why I want to go back to the mental health and socializing, because I feel like rehearsals are great. You go down, you got this energy exchange. You recharge, get rid of negative energy, and then there's new things evolving and just.
Yeah, and sometimes it can only happen in that time. Because I've done that before. I've rehearsed my stuff with the Valiant Knights band, which is my own original material, and because you're rehearsing with everybody and that energy's there, I'll suddenly do a different riff completely out of the blue that I'm like, whoa, where'd that come from? And that's like, right, I remember that when I get home, because that's a new song straight away. I know it is, because I've done something different, and I would never have done that if I'd gone to rehearse that day. Sort of thing. So sometimes, the happy mistakes.
Sometimes
surprises.
it can be improvising as well. Like
Yeah.
it's just something that naturally comes to you.
I
It
think,
just feels right. Yeah.
You're just doing something between you. And
Yeah,
all of a
yeah.
sudden it's like, oh, that's really good. That.
Or
I'll
somebody
have
will
to
just
develop
pipe up with an idea. What about if we did it this way?
it. Yeah.
Because we had a song called Meltdown that we weren't too sure about. And we'd heard the demo version of it from Steve.
That's right.
And I don't know, it just wasn't working with the instruments that we had and everything else. It was not that it wasn't working, there was just something not quite clicking. And anyway, Steve piped up that it would probably sound quite good in a bluesy sort of style, and I'd never sung blues before. That was never something I'd ever thought of. But anyway, so we just started ad-libbing and just trying it in a blues style, so the song had totally slowed down from really full-on rocky to this slow, soulful, bluesy kind of thing. And I just thought, wow, this is phenomenal. I've never sung like this in my life.
Right, yeah.
But it kind of stuck. We suddenly
the
decided,
vibe.
wow, oh my God, that was amazing. And subsequently, we've never done anything with it because we've ummed and ahed about it so much that it's now no longer anything in particular.
Yeah.
So Meltdown is probably
Sometimes things
something
can be-
that's going to be coming out soon.
Sort of just over the edge of being too different. That it doesn't really fit with the rest of the stuff. So you tend to, you might work on it for a while and suddenly think, do you know what? It doesn't really.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I know that we somehow feel it with the band that when it doesn't need more changes anymore. Like like happy mistakes are okay. Sometimes like no, just leave it alone. I always say this, that for me, songs and music is like a good book. It tells a nice story. That's how you communicate, connect with people. But then for me, a song is also almost like a time capsule. Like leave it alone. Like after a while, it's like it takes you back to the time. If a band always changes
Or
on.
plays it just slightly different. I
Oh,
find
you
that
could
really
do that.
irritating. I like them to play it exactly how I heard it on the album, because that's what I'm waiting for, is that little bit in the bass riff or
Right,
whatever.
yeah,
And then when they've
yeah.
changed it or done it slightly different, I'm disappointed.
Is this live as well? Like if they play it live?
Yeah,
or
if
is
they
it-
play it live and it's
Yeah.
slightly different to the way it
Yeah,
was on the album,
right.
because you've grown to love the way it is on
the
the
way
album.
it sounds. Yeah.
And sometimes in a band, they might just play a few notes slightly different, and that changes it.
That reminds me of actually working with all of you, because Mike was saying to me, so we're recording this album with him now, EP, and then he's like, "Oh, I need to give you like a list of focuses." And so what we usually do is, because we have so many tracks,
Focuses, eh?
yeah,
Focuses.
because we have,
Focus now.
Focus on the song.
You must do this.
yeah, he's really rough, like.
Yeah.
You don't do it how I
But
want
I
it.
need the money,
So you have to do as you're told.
No,
No,
I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to say, but in a way we did the same with yours. So when we record, we add extras,
Yeah.
but the main focus always stays the same. So like in Mike's, like with your setup, usually he's like, look, when I play this live, it's this, and that instrument, but we just add everything else. But they could be just in the background, just a bit here and there.
Yeah.
So when he plays it live, people are like, oh yeah, it sounds like on the album. Meanwhile, on the album, we have like 20 more tracks. And we have got the same with your music, or like I work with lots of people. And I think it's the same what you just mentioned, that those bands, let's say they've been playing a song for 30 years, they might be bored with it.
Yeah.
They're not going to change the core of the song. So that stays the same. So people will still like connect and, oh yeah, I know this song, but they might play differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or actually, one thing I've noticed certainly with artists or vocal artists that have got older, maybe they can't reach that note anymore, so they do a different
don't
ad
do
lib.
it. Yeah.
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 That's
true.
that irks me a little bit. And obviously they can't help it. Their vocal cords have changed. They've got a bit older. They're not quite as able to do that. And I get that, but I think I've made my point.
No, yeah.
I want it how it sounds on the album.
Do it now.
That's it.
Yeah.
Money back.
So
No,
talking about before about like new inventions and technology, and of course I'm into that every day, because I'm like, part of my job is that I'm looking for new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
What's coming out? Even in the past few years, there's some new stuff that came out. What do you think about doing recordings on the rehearsal and taking it home and then practicing with that? Do you do that?
Yeah, we do that. Paul brings his little dictaphone type thing in and records the sessions, so that certainly, like for example, if Tommy the drummer's been off for a few sessions and we've been practicing this song in the background without him, it's benefit to him
Yeah.
to be able to pick up on what we've all been doing.
I did that with Kyra, like with my old band Kyra, we used to record, like we'd set up a camera in the corner and we'd just record whatever song we were working on. So say it came to the next practice, we could watch that, or we could take it home. And obviously when it basically prepare us more for the next practice, so it is beneficial in that way that you do record.
Yeah, and not only that, I think having that recording, you've then got something to go away with and keep the momentum of that session to listen back to, and you can fine tune
I've
stuff.
done that. I'm trying to do that more recently because Kate, who I play with now, she's kind of new to all of this, and so we'll do some stuff, and she'll nail what she's doing on the mandolin and maybe a vocal, and then the next time it's completely gone. And I'm thinking, why have you forgotten it all? This is just, and then I recorded it. Just recorded something the other day actually, and played it back, and I said, "This is what we did the other." And she said, "Is that what we did? Is that us?" I said, "Yeah, that's you on a mandolin, and it's your vocal doing that really great harmony and those." And it really helped. And then from then on, she just hit it straight away. She just needed that reference.
Yeah.
From that recording we did last
Even
week.
if it's just like a recording on an iPhone, as long as it's just like a.
But because she'd heard
Pairs
it
you better,
recorded,
yeah.
it was
Yeah,
like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember
But if
that.
we hadn't done that, we just carried on rehearsing.
It might have
She'd have got really kind of, annoyed with herself that she couldn't remember, or she couldn't.
I suppose the other thing about band practice is you're not going to. like me at home, if I was going to practice them, I could do it 5, 6, 7 times if I really wanted to. But you're not going to subject everybody else in the band to that, so you're only ever really going to do each song maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
And then because you've got a limited amount of time, haven't you?
Of course. Yeah.
So having the
that's
benefit
the
of a recording means you can go away and listen to it in the car or sing along to it at home.
Definitely a good
prepares
thing.
you more for the next rehearsal as
thing
well.
to do your homework, and then come to rehearsal to actually progress it further.
Well, you'll remember in the beginning when I started with Southern Edge that I always needed my phone
Yes.
for the lyrics. And sometimes just getting my head around the tune, because I suppose as somebody that's doing the vocals, you've not just got the tune to remember like perhaps the people playing the instruments do. You've also got to remember lyrics as well, and actually that can be overwhelming to somebody that's brand new to any of this kind of performance stuff.
You know what's funny? So back, I'm talking about 2007 when I had this band back in Hungary, and I don't even remember if we had like smartphones back then or anything. And I do remember when we had the rehearsal, we actually did these recordings for everybody. So there was one version when the singer wasn't singing, and then we played through the song without a guitar solo, so I could take it home and practice my solo to it. Then we did another one without the drummer, and that's that emailed it to everybody, and Windows Messenger, of course, because
Back in the day.
I think Facebook started. Anyway,
Or was it MySpace?
MySpace.
Oh yeah,
MySpace. I remember that.
In my time, when I was young. But it was really funny, so we emailed it to each other. And then another thing we found really helpful was Guitar Pro. So I was quite lucky because I was using it. The bassist loved it, he used it, and then we got a new drummer and he was using it. So like we could literally see what everybody was doing, and then we could dig in and just, hey, what if we changed and just change like a note or send it back, so something. And this is like back then it was Cubase 4 maybe, it was like
Cubase. Yeah, I remember Cubase.
Yeah.
Pro Tools as well.
Yeah,
I remember all them.
That was really interesting. So we used that, but then I talked with the guys, and they're like, we still do this method because it just works. So we would have this Guitar Pro, which doesn't sound real, but that's not the point. You get the feel for the whole
guides you. It can guide you through your parts that you need to learn, or what sounds right for you.
Yeah. No, it's true as that. I've just hopefully just about to start with a band called Hadrian's Union. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I have. How have I heard of that?
They're like a cosmic folk rock band from sort of Carlisle area.
Yeah.
And quite an eccentric frontman called Stu Simpson.
Right.
Just about to start with them. Sent me a load of tracks.
Yeah, you were saying to me before.
Sent me a load of tracks to learn the bass parts, and and it's got the old bass player on it, and so I had to purposefully listen to it on my phone so that it cuts out all. There's no bass. I can't hear anything.
Obviously you can add your
so I
touch.
can listen to the song and play the bass because I can put the phone on the table and just play along to it because I'm not hearing the bass. But if I play it through another device or something,
you got headphones on.
Headphones, I'm hearing the other guy's bass, and I don't want to hear the bass. I don't want to hear your bass parts. I want to do my bass parts. And so I totally frequency wise, I use the phone just because I don't really get much bass.
It's more treble in it.
Yeah, it's like a trebly thing.
Yeah,
it has a trebly sound.
So you hear less bass.
Mine isn't. Mine's these flat wound strings. My strings are sort of middly. And so I find that a good way to rehearse.
I like that.
That way. Yeah.
I think when I mix as well, I do that a lot. I mean, I've got the Auratone, but that still has more bass than a phone. But then I got that little radio out there now. That's very just mid-range, very, very, very weak. But the thing is, if you play the song on it, it sounds good.
Good way to test.
Sounds good everywhere.
Yeah. It's going to sound good on there. There's decent frequency response.
So do you do that a lot? Like with artists you work with, once you recorded it, do you always listen to it out there on the radio?
Yeah.
Do you do it in the car as well? Because I think the car stereo
that was always
not
that was
anymore.
always a procedure, wasn't it?
You listen to it in the car
and then
speakers.
it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I've seen people who actually created these wires and cables so they could plug in the computer and mix the music in the car. I mean,
Really?
it doesn't. No, I mean it doesn't work because
No.
Doesn't sound like it
the
would be a
thing
good
is,
thing to do.
since I've got these Dynaudio speakers, I don't need to do that anymore. We all hear differently.
Yeah.
So I hear music away in my head, and when I mix, I just needed to find the speakers that I'm still hearing the music the same way, but if I work with these, they translate in a way, and that's it. And that since I've got these, I'm sorted. So for me, these are like something between almost like a hi-fi, real world sound, and then the flat studio sound.
Mhm.
So it's between the two. And since then I don't do the car test because I don't need to anymore. I do the radio test because it's good to get out from this room.
Then listen to it in a different.
And yes,
Yeah.
Actually, another way, I suppose another thing is, since recording at home on the odd occasion, I do my phone test. I'll play it through my phone to see what it sounds like on a YouTube video or on a Facebook video.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's different there.
I tell another secret. So when I post these videos on Instagram about just songs, and I just record them just here, and people are like, man, it's so nice and clean, and I didn't have that, like, let's say 6 years ago. And these days it's also a test for me. So if I play those Instagram videos on my speakers, they have bass and everything because this records low end. But if you play back those songs on this and you can hear it clearly after you recorded it with the phone, then the song's great, then the mix is good. So that's for me, it's a great way to post stuff on social media, but it's another way of testing.
And actually, I suppose most people do listen to some form of music on social media or through YouTube or whatever, and they're not necessarily going to have it hooked up to fancy speakers. So if you can get the sound right for that purpose, you've kind of half won.
Go on.
Yeah, so but don't forget, that's what I'm saying. I recorded it with the phone.
Yeah.
In a listening position, then playing it back on the phone, and then if it sounds good there.
Remember how struck we were when you did post some of the Southern Edge stuff on Facebook, and I was like, wow, that sounds phenomenal. You don't expect that.
But that's just a phone recording.
It's weird though. I was about to say, I must admit the speakers and phones are obviously getting, with technology, they're getting a lot better than say 10 years ago, but then obviously it's still a good way to test to see if it does sound how you want it to sound. So that's all I was going to say about the speakers and phones. The speakers.
No, I think it's an important part of the rehearsal process as well, because I got people coming to the studio and they're like, we got this recording but it's not sounding so good. I'm like, man, don't worry about that. Don't feel bad about that, because it's great you've done that. You brought it to me, you're showing it to me. I can put aside, the sound, because it doesn't matter. I can hear the elements in it, and then I'm like, okay, so that's the song. Then I know, like, okay, we could use this microphone technique, because like people will send me songs before they come to the studio, and like, okay, and then I make a plan. I call it like a sound map, almost like Mike. Many times you popped him. We had like a coffee, and it's like, I've got this song, and then he showed me his big list. And I do it with lots of people, including you guys. When we do stuff, I'm like, okay, so we could do this. Okay, we guess to this part, we could do that. And I'm thinking about microphone, like techniques, which microphone to use, how to set it up, how much room sound we want in it, and then how you put it into the song. That's why many times when people are like, why is it sounding bigger? That's why, because we got so many tiny tricks, and there's lots of work that has gone into it.
And that's the thing that's opened my eyes is. Seeing behind the scenes about what goes in, because obviously there's a difference between just standing in rehearsal with a mic and thrashing it all out. The little nuanced details of how you position a microphone and how many microphones around the drum kit, for example, and just the amount that goes into it all.
Depends what you're doing, doesn't it? Because I did that first EP. It was just going to be my voice, because I think you asked me, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's just me on a tenor guitar, 4-string guitar, and a voice. And so I think you kind of thought to yourself, I think you did a bit of homework and thought, right, how am I going to make this sound wide? If it's just that and that, how do I make this sound epic? And you did this technique where you had lots of microphones on the, and we recorded it. I think we recorded it.
I used 3
a few times,
and then we doubled them up, So it gave me options to play with it. So if there was a section where we needed just one take from Mike, I was like, one microphone was going to sound weak because it's only his voice and the instrument. So I used several microphones. So it was one take, but a wide sound.
Yeah.
But when it gets to the strummy bit, it's two guitars or two instruments, and then just a single or maybe a double just mixed up. So suddenly it's like stronger. It's like, I called it the pillar of the songs because I put it left and right. So it's like,
Wow.
so like that's like, but that's like mixing techniques, like how you play with it. Although Paul was mentioning after hearing Steve's double vocal, when we do the Frank, you do the Frank.
Yeah.
So he's like, we need to do this live. He's like, I'm gonna put Steve on the left, myself on the right, and then we'll do it because it sounds nice when you do one vocal, they do the answer, and it's just middle, left, and simple trick, but live it's a nice effect. If you could go back and tell your younger self tips about rehearsal, like what would it be? Why is everyone looking at Mike?
Well, because he's like, he's the god round here.
well,
He's the man round
If
here.
I could go back to my younger self, and put my arm around his shoulder and said, "You know what? This is what you need to do." I think I would. I think I would say think about the performance. So think about, don't just learn it. Don't just kind of learn it and be.
Is that what you used to
insular.
do before, or?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't really learn things properly because playing live is a different animal, completely different animal, and unless you're kind of a bit more prepared for it,
You just don't want to make a mistake, do you?
Yeah.
So you probably think about your performance more than the actual.
Yeah. And, when we did the open mic stuff, we ran it for a while.
I remember that. Yeah, it
You
was
saw this happening all the time. They would come and do it. They were bedroom players mainly,
good. Yeah,
and they would come and
perform live on the stage.
but
Yeah,
like they were still in their bedroom,
yeah,
and so they weren't thinking about the performance. And I know it's an experience thing and a transition thing. You've got to put yourself in that position to experience that, to then do it more.
it can be quite, if you're really early into it, it can be quite daunting, can't it?
If you can kind of take those people to one side and say, look, think about when you do this. Think about when you do it, and give that everything you've got. But do that at home.
Yeah,
as well.
So you're prepared, ready for it.
Then when you get there, it's not a strange thing to be all of a sudden in front of this microphone, in front of people, doing this song.
I've got something
you might
here.
have done it in your bedroom. And you want to be doing it like you're on the stage in front of 1,000 people.
I've got something here. Don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you don't get it wrong.
Yes,
I feel like that's what we do every week. We're practicing until we stop.
But
getting
practicing like you're going to perform it.
Yeah.
Kind of puts you in that mind of not forgetting it. If you kind of do it half-heartedly or not in a performance kind of vibe, you'll always go, oh, what was that second line on that song, on that verse again? You'll always do that. But if you get past that barrier and just always rehearse it like it's the only time you're ever going to do it, and there's 1,000
It'll all
people
naturally
watching,
come together.
I think you're going to do it. You're going to do it. You're
It's
going to
interesting
remember it.
you should say that, actually, because I think because of my anxiety about it in the first book, because part of me doing this was me pushing myself out of my comfort zone to do something I perhaps wouldn't have done.
Seb, same question for you as well. So knowing all of this, what would you tell to your...
Well, I'm not, obviously, I don't have a younger self to think about. I'm quite new to all of this. So it's not like I've been doing this for years and can talk to my younger self. But I would say this, actually, and it's a bit of a flip side to yours, is not to be too precious about it. Like, I think when I started, I was so perhaps obsessed with sounding right or getting it right that I was not really I needed the lyrics to focus because there's too much going on. It was once I relaxed and just let go and thought, just whatever, it'll be what it is.
That's fine. That's your message.
Stop trying to be precious about it. Stop trying to be perfectionist about it. Just let it be natural and authentic.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good message. Again, each of you told good things. I think that's a good message. And again, it doesn't matter how many years you've been doing this. I think it changed a lot already. And you have lots of experience. Just think about the studio, the band. You have a really quality band. So I think that's great.
I'm probably more with Seb really. It's kind of like in my old band Kyra, it was kind of like I wasn't told how to write the drums, but there was two brothers in the band that kind of they wanted the drums to be a certain way to how they wrote the song. So I'd probably say if I went back to my younger self, I would have probably said to myself, look, okay, maybe have a bit more balls to say, look, I'm the drummer. Obviously I'm open to like people saying, oh, I don't think that fits, but I didn't feel like I had the chance to be able to really be the drummer, if you know what I mean. Whereas nowadays it's kind of like I'm more free being a session drummer. I can come up with parts, and sometimes like with Harry's stuff, like you said I was playing on the third in one of the songs when it should have been the second and the fourth.
So I wrote something down that it might connect here, that like principles of rehearsals, and one says leave your ego at home. Rehearsals should be a safe place for constructive feedback.
Mm-hmm. I think what it was, I mean, there was some egos, but I don't think it was meant to be, oh, we're in charge. I think it was just like everyone's got different ways of writing music,
so
you know.
I have this belief so that we shouldn't hold back, because if you hold back, you're not part of that communication between members and everything.
Yeah.
So those guys might not have been aware.
No, like I don't blame them. I'm just saying, like, I don't blame them.
And I never said that. What I'm saying is that's why we need to be upfront and open about it.
Yeah.
But maybe, who knows? Back then you were more shy. I was
more shy back then.
I know that when like I was in a band, sometimes I should have said things, and because I didn't, I'm like, oh, what would have happened if I if I did this and that. And you need to just say that, and then again, talking about the safe place, that we should be able to do that. And I think that's a good band, that's a good dynamic, and then that's how great ideas are born.
So that's kind of like probably what I'd tell my younger self to do.
So, okay. Do you rehearse just for fun? Do you rehearse keeping the gig in your mind, because we talked about that? So when you do that, do you set up in a way that is similar to like the live gig? What do you think about that?
I don't know, it's a bit hit and miss, because you're at the mercy of a sound engineer when you go out to do a sound gig, so it's very
when you
dependent.
rehearse your band, you're already set up almost like you would do it live. It's just that you're in a circle rather than in a line pointing outwards to an audience. So it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
You are kind of gigging partly ready, you're rehearsing partly gig ready.
Yeah.
Already.
I think
there's too many readies.
You're not going to get those sort of...
Good job, Red's my favourite.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, in a way, I feel like Paul is quite experienced, like he has heavy energy. I've seen the amount of work he put into that band, and then finding the right members, which is very important. So I think you got that benefit of him, like knowing, like, okay, we do it this way, and then you go to gigs and you're not getting surprised. But that's what I meant. I think it's important to rehearse in a way that when you go to the gigs, you're ready for these situations. When, let's say, the sound might go, or like a monitor might go during the gig, and you need to be ready.
I think that's why it's so important as well to whoever does take the lead on that, and obviously in our case it's Paul, that you've got that trust that he's going to get it right. He's not just going to be all about the bass and making sure he sounds great. He's going to think about everybody in the band, and I think Paul has that. He is conscious of everything and the bigger picture and the full sound. Because you know what bass players
do you
are
ever get
bass players, eh? It's all about the jazz hands.
Look, I just play with other people and just do my thing. If I was the bass player in doing my own thing, I'd be a nightmare. But because I just play for others, that's fine. I'll just pitch up and play my bit. But no, I was going to ask you, do you ever get together with, say you're working stuff out, it's quite often it might be just the songwriter and the singer who need to sit down quietly and work out some stuff, whether it's harmonies, the layout of the song. Do you ever do that?
Do you know what? We haven't, no.
And then get together with the other guys
it would
and
be
say,
a
this is what we've
benefit to do
got. Because then you if two of you know the song really, really well.
Yeah.
then it might bring
That could be really
everybody
beneficial
on
because
better.
sometimes it's hard to hear what
then-
Steve's singing when we're all just
Because your
banging along.
guitarist will suddenly just have the freedom to just lock
Yeah,
into
yeah.
what you're doing already, because
Yeah.
Steve knows it very well. He's playing,
Yeah.
you're singing it, and you're doing the harmonies together, which
Do you
will
think you can
inspire
do that with
everybody
a
else.
holographic image?
So,
Projected
I mean,
onto Steve.
the point I'm
with
trying to
him.
make is, I guess that's what I do with myself or with Kate. You know, we'll just sit quietly and work it out,
Yeah.
and then we'll go somewhere like a hall, like a village hall, and do it like we might be doing it live, sort of thing, as a mock thing.
Yeah.
And it just feels completely different. We've gone
Yeah.
through the process of learning it and pulling it together, and then we go and do it kind of semi like we would do if we were going to do it live.
Yeah.
And it does feel completely different.
It probably helps lock in the dynamics of
But-
the vocals from the
Yeah.
harmony and yourself as well a
Yeah,
bit better.
but we know it already, and so it's a good.
Mind you, I suppose in similar to that, what I do is I kind of do that to myself. With the in-ear monitor, I'm able to turn Steve up a little bit more than everybody else, so that he's a bit more
So you're doing
prominent in
you're
my
kind of
ear.
doing that on the fly. as it
Yeah.
were, yeah. Which
So-
is the same thing, I suppose.
Yeah. Except we don't have. Yeah,
If
because
you've got-
actually I can at the end of that particular bit that we've practiced, I can just turn to Steve and say, "Oh, by the way, that bit that you did there," because I can
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah,
We can talk about it as we're going along.
That's
so
good.
that
yeah,
works
yeah,
quite well.
That's really handy. Yeah.
I think we talked about everything, by the way. I think it became a bit longer, which is fine, because I think, again, I need to edit stuff down. But anyway, all I want to say is that thank you so much for everybody.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
for
Yeah,
coming.
thank you for having us. Yeah, it's been really good.
Guys,
for having us, yeah.
we'll do more of this. And what I want to say to everybody is that if there's anything we missed, just let us know. What's your tip for us to, about rehearsals, and let us know and leave a comment for us. And then we'll see. And we'll see you guys next time. Yeah, thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah,
Bye,
thanks.
everybody.
Good to see you.
Yeah, nice to meet
Good
you.
to see you.
I'm
Yeah.
sure I've met you before, but obviously I've met you before. But yeah, no, it's good to meet up.
I've never met myself before.
No, I don't
Thankfully.
think any of us have. But no, it's just good to hear everyone's different backgrounds. Yeah, it's cool.
That's great, guys.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
It wasn't as daunting as I thought it was going to be coming here.
Man, you know me. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,